Hello, welcome to the newly scheduled weekly office hours for fitness-related businesses, including gyms, recreation centers, and personal training. I'm Lori Call, Senior Policy Director for the Boulder Chamber. We appreciate your attending today's program to hear the most up-to-date information on the Safer at Home guidelines for your industry. I want to begin by thanking our partners with the Boulder County Chambers and Economic Development Agencies for continually providing businesses with the resources they need, including these weekly webinars. I'll be facilitating the discussion this afternoon, working in concert with my colleague at the Boulder Chamber, Tyler X. If you have technical questions, please reach out directly to Tyler and he can provide assistance. On the logistics front, please post all of your questions in the chat and Q&A feature of Zoom, and I will ask them on your behalf. We will have plenty of time at the end for questions because we know that times are changing. There's a lot of information being thrown out there, and we want to provide you with the clarity you need. As follow-up, we will send out a recording of this webinar along with any additional resources in the next day. And with that, I want to begin by introducing our panelists from Boulder County, Cammie Edson, Jesse Rounds, Zach Swank, and Mary Olson. I believe Cammie will be sharing her screen as we go through the deck today. And I'd now like to hand it off to Zach Swank from Boulder County Public Health to provide us with an update.
Thanks, Lori, and thanks to the Boulder Chamber for continuing to help host these webinars, as well as all of our chambers and economic partners across Boulder County. So today we're going to go over updates about Safer at Home, resources to support you, and then as always, we'll have plenty of time for your Q&A. So in a timeline since last week, on May 22nd, Boulder County extended our face covering order. We'll have more to say about that later. On the 25th, Governor Polis extended the Safer at Home order until June 1st. Private campsites are now allowed. And on May 27th, tomorrow, restaurants can reopen for in-person dining at 50%. And then on June 1st, day camps and youth sports camps will be allowed. And then we are expecting further updates and changes to Safer at Home on June 1st as well. But long-term outlook, just want to remind everyone, because this keeps coming up of, well, what happens after June 1st? Are we, is the order going to go away and all restriction will be lifted? No, want to remind everyone that until we have vaccine, treatment, or herd immunity, but really, more realistically, a vaccine or treatment, we will be under some version of Safer at Home, which will continue to evolve, but it will be months that we are still under some form of restriction. Also, as a friendly reminder, COVID-19 is still just as contagious as it always was. So even though we're starting to see loosened restrictions, that's not because the disease is any less contagious. It's just that we are evolving in how we respond to it with better testing, with better contact tracing, with better understanding of, how to physical distance and operate our businesses in ways that reduce and limit risk. But we really need to continue to stay home as much as possible. And as a reminder, a face covering order is still in effect. So speaking of the face covering order, we want to thank you for your feedback. We had almost 400 responses to our face covering survey, and that helped inform our decision to extend the order. On the survey, we saw that most businesses reported good physical distancing among customers, some reporting great, which is to say that it was happening pretty much all of the time. But generally good physical distancing behavior by customers. So we thank you for your efforts to encourage the patrons at your businesses to maintain good physical distance. Regarding face covering, in general, they seem to strike the right balance, being about right, not going too far, not being too strict. So we were pleased to see that. And we are pleased to see that most businesses report nearly 100% compliance with the face covering order on behalf of their customers. I think everyone's experienced that there are a few individuals out there that are not following the orders, but far and away we're seeing good compliance. Which is particularly apparent when you compare Boulder County to some of our nearby counties that do not have face covering orders in place. You see our compliance rate at 92 versus 74, 84, or 77 for nearby counties without the face covering order. And then this contributes to the new cases that we've seen in the last 2 weeks. You notice that Boulder is significantly lower and lighter in color there compared to some of our peer counties, in the Denver metro area. And while it's not exclusive due to the face covering order, that's certainly a contributing factor. So for face covering, we're really recommending you bring a face covering with you whenever you leave your residence. The Boulder County order requires that you have it if you're not able to maintain 6 feet, and certain professions and sectors under the state's safer at home order require you to have it for the activity as well. So just as a good practice, whenever you leave your residence, bring your face covering with you. And with that, I will turn it over to the team to take it from here.
Good afternoon. My name is Marnie Ratzel, and I'm representing Boulder County Public Health. What happened yesterday when Governor Polis announced the extension of Safer at Home, he made a few changes. One of them is that private campgrounds are allowed to be open now. So specific to Boulder County and throughout the state, these are the guidelines that are posted up on the state website about private campgrounds. We are asking private campground hosts to consult with Boulder County Public Health on their plans, just to ensure that we are giving you the best guidance. Camping should be made by reservation only, and there is CDC guidelines on how to clean and disinfect all the facilities that your campers would use while at your facility. Social distancing is important, of course, and not only should you ensure that your campsites are at least a minimum of 6 feet apart, please post signage that enforces that social distancing. The guidelines that we're providing here are specific to campground hosts. Additional information for campers is also posted on the website that's included here. And it's very similar to some of the other recreational activities that are occurring. So campsites should really be for campers that are in a single household, maintaining social distance from others, and keeping that, I think it's 10-person maximum. Of course, you're in your own household. Just finalizing for your staff, you want to certainly staff your facilities, but keep the staff to a minimum, social distance, and if possible, offer them the ability to be outside when possible. Outdoor recreation is another evolving area. At the moment, playgrounds and pools do remain closed. It's our understanding that June 1st, there may be some more information that speaks to this, but at the moment, that's what we have available. Golf courses are open as long as your golfers can maintain social distancing and the maximum number of people. It's a little different for tennis and basketball. You can only play these sports with one family or with the family members in your own household, and that can only be up to a maximum of 4 people. So 4 people or fewer. Another change that has happened is that the ski resorts may open for spring skiing. as long as the local authorities allow them to open. So that would be coordinating with us at Boulder County Public Health. And I think I'll turn it over now.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mary Olson with Boulder County Public Health. I am just going to go over a couple of things about indoor recreation, and nothing has changed regarding these topics under safer at home guidelines. So gyms and pools are still closed. Personal training can occur, but only with 4 people total, including the trainer. There is the little odd caveat that closed gym spaces can be used for personal training, but you still have to follow all of the guidelines in terms of holding training sessions in separate rooms, you know, a room being defined as 4 walls and a door, and again, staying under that within the maximum of 10 people. So if there are 2 sessions happening at one time, they'd have to be in separate rooms. So again, this information has not changed with the new guidelines that were issued yesterday. And then summer camps and youth sports camps. This is a big one. So starting June 1st, summer camps can open with many guidelines and restrictions. Outdoor camps will be limited to 25 campers. Indoor camps will be limited to 10 campers only. And again, the guidelines are very lengthy, and we will link you to those a little bit later, but obviously strict physical distancing requirements, masks, face coverings are required whenever possible, leaving it open that, you know, if kids are at camp all day, they'll be able to eat, take off their masks to eat, but in general, face coverings will be required. And then I also listed here that space needs to be provided if a staff person or a camper falls ill. I think that applies mostly to the indoor camps, but obviously you would want to isolate an outdoor camp situation as well. And again, we will link to that website here shortly. So here's the link for the state order on the summer camps. And then we are also linking, and we'll link again to our checklist site at Boulder County Public Health. Since this is sort of a new category, we don't have a specific checklist for it, but you can link to personal services and a retail checklist just to kind of start to get yourself familiar if you're running a camp with some of the other guidelines that are out there, and hopefully we'll have more, we'll have created checklists for this in the future. This slide is just starting to speak to some of the questions that we came up with today after reading the new guidelines. Do the new camp guidelines allow sports teams to operate? At this point, the answer to that is absolutely not. Sport team activities are still prohibited. In order to run a camp this summer, you have to have licensing through the state of Colorado, through DORA. So you have to already exist as a licensed camp or somehow obtain that licensure. What is a youth camp? What does that mean? What age is that? The information we know on that right now is it's regulated by the state. So again, through DORA, your camp will be designated for certain age ranges. So again, that you would just be following the existing state regulations for those and licensing requirements for those camps. So I'm sure you all have other questions on this, and you can just use the question and answer feature as we continue to present on this new topic.
And I would just like to invite, if Sarah Scully or anyone from Sarah Scully's team is listening right now, if you can use the raise the hand function, we'll add you as a presenter so you can chime in when we get to kind of the group Q&A session. Great. Well, thank you, Mary and Marnie. I think Jesse and do you want to go, Jess, and then?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is we've put this in every session, and I think it bears repeating each time. Compliance with the public health orders is obligatory. The requirements are frequently changing, so we really appreciate that people are listening in our sessions and using the resources that we've been able to aggregate to follow these rules and orders. We are here to support you. So we are going to continue to hold these sessions and provide information as we receive it. But if you have additional questions about compliance in your specific case, it may be best to contact an attorney. We cannot provide legal advice to you or your clients. Your best source for that is an attorney. Outbreaks. If 2 or more of your employees are confirmed or suspected of having COVID-19 within a 14-day period, that's considered an outbreak. And we've set up this sort of process. Immediately send this outbreak report form, which is available through this link and on our website, to us, and we will work with you to determine the next course of action based on information about your business and the materials that we have on hand. It won't necessarily be this team, but it'll be Boulder County Public Health will work with you. And one thing that people have mentioned in previous sessions, and I think again bears repeating, is this does not mean an outbreak doesn't necessarily mean that your business will need to close. That's why working with Boulder County Public Health is so important. We can help you develop a path forward if an outbreak occurs at your facility. Just some more details here about guidance and tools. On the left side of your screen are mostly state level, guidance, although there is our guidance in there as well. There are a couple things in here that I do want to sort of highlight in terms of the social distancing space calculator and sample face covering script. Depending on your business, those will be very helpful. And then again, as we mentioned, there are these checklists for the various industries. This group of businesses that you all are in were originally part of the personal services industry group, and so that checklist is going to be really helpful for you. But retail is going to be helpful as well as a guide for you. And all these checklists are available at this website at the bottom here, the boco.org COVID-19 business website. And again, there's that website. There's also the covid19.colorado.gov website that's really an aggregation of all the information that the state is putting together. Energize Colorado is a source for personal protective equipment and other resources, cleaning supplies that the state put together along with a lot of businesses and chamber help, and is a great source for those physical materials that you need. Other sources of information, the Chamber of Commerce, you're here already, that's great. The Chamber has been incredibly helpful putting information out, providing an opportunity for us to speak with businesses. Small Business Development Center, your industry association, even at the national level, can help provide information about how to comply with these regulations. DORA, the Department of Regulatory Agencies, as a licensor for camps, is going to be a really important resource. And then the jurisdiction within which you're located is going to be helpful. If your camp or your business is located within a city, they may have specific guidance for you as well. And just an advertisement for our ongoing sessions, and this session in particular, we'll be here next Tuesday, hoping to help answer questions as they come in. But if you have if any part of your business is maybe related to one of these other fields, please listen in at those sessions, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And every week from now on at 6 p.m., there will be a weekly Spanish session. Some of our colleagues, along with the Latino Chamber, are going to be providing that session. It's, like I said, 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. And just to close out here, this is our email address. If you have questions, if you have concerns, please email us. There's also, if you have concerns, you can call us at our call center and we can help follow up.
Thank you. So why don't we go ahead, and we have questions coming in, and so some of these have been answered to some extent, but I will circle back with them. There's a question regarding outdoor lap pools. When will they be opened?
Okay, we don't have a definitive on when they will be open. At the moment, they're closed. June 1st, there may be some more information coming out.
Great. Why has Boulder County not applied for variances on business types like Douglas County and some of the other counties have done?
It's a good question. Lane, if you want to weigh in on this one, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I can take it. Part of the reason is, ensuring consistency with our other, near peer counties. Having consistent regulations, across county lines and being consistent with the state is important. Lane, do you have anything else to add?
Okay. Is there any, are there additional guidelines about single room training facilities? A comment around, with these guidelines, I can have just 4 people in my 10,000 square foot one room facility.
I'll take this one. Yeah, this is Cami. So I think this whole field is a little confusing because we're allowed to use closed spaces. So I think first and foremost, everyone has to keep in mind that all gyms of any type, studios, gyms, are closed. So the guidelines really aren't meant to facilitate how do you use the space. What they're saying is personal training can be done 4-on-1. If you are using a closed gym, regardless of how big it is, whether it's one room or 10,000 square foot space, the max that can be in there, if it's just a single space, is no more than 10 people. And so this was when it comes in, if you have a retail possibly going on, or you're having someone do your symptom checks monitoring, that is different than the personal trainer who can only work with 3 clients at a time, unless it's a single family, you're allowed to do more. Then in any of those shared spaces, you can have no more than 10, but it's still a closed building.
Cami, just to quickly clarify, that's 3-in-1.
Oh, did I say 4-in-1? I'm sorry. Yes, 4 max. 3 clients, or 3, with 1 trainer, or 2-and-2, but no more than 4 people. So it's really not about maximizing the space, because the spaces themselves are still closed.
Okay, additional question from a yoga studio. When will I be allowed to have more than 3 people inside with at least 6 feet of distance apart, or for instance, 50% capacity?
Very normal question, and we're getting it a lot. It's very understandable, and the standard response is we just don't know when the state is going to provide that additional guidelines or change the guidelines from personal training being 4 max.
Great. Okay.
But that, I would look for the the June 1st update, next week to see if there's any changes there.
Yeah.
Thank you. What is defined as a day camp or sports camp? Is that only licensed through an agency or also through private business?
Yeah. So I don't know if anyone from Sarah Scully's team joined or not, but you have to be a licensed camp to be able to follow the camp guidelines. So if you're a club team or you're doing personal training, you're not going to be able to shift over and find yourselves and create a space for yourself under the camp guidelines, because you need to be a licensed camp already. So for those of you who are trying to figure out how to practice with your teams or do things that might be above and beyond what the personal training limits currently have you at, you're not going to be able to do that unless you're already a licensed camp. So some businesses will fall right into it and they know exactly who they are. If that's not familiar to you already, most likely you're not going to be able to use those guidelines.
Thanks, Cami. For a Pilates studio, any indication when Pilates studios would be able to open?
Yeah, same, just like the yoga studios. I mean, we'll watch for every update when the state comes out with new orders. Next one will be June 1st, but we just don't know when those updates are going to be provided.
Great.
But we'll definitely talk about them here on a weekly basis if and when they are provided.
Okay, a question about families. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to address, I know that this is so frustrating for so
Yeah.
many people. And one of the reasons that it's, we can't give you that answer now, and why the state can't give you that answer now is that, this is not just a clear path forward and we've got a timeline that's laid out. It is very much responding to the changes that are happening with infection rates of COVID. And so that makes it really hard to forecast with any certainty in the future. Saying, it'll be, X number of weeks and then you can open for sure. And then having to backtrack from that, is for sure a worse scenario than not being able to give you an estimate at this time. And I know folks really want it, but we have to wait for the data to come in terms of what are the infection rates that are happening now, and what are the impacts of the changes that are made. The change for restaurants is a big one, and we really need some time to evaluate how is that changing infection rates in the community before making additional changes. And that's what makes it so hard to plan for the future with this pandemic is, every change we make, we have to give it a week or, really ideally 3 weeks with the 14-day incubation period of COVID-19 to be able to know, what the impact of that change was. Because the risk is if we go too fast too soon and things get out of hand, then we have to tighten back down. And that is not a scenario that anybody wants to be in. So I know it's frustrating to not know what's coming in the future. I know your businesses hang on the line here, but we're trying to move forward with the best data as we can.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
Here's another question about kind of the math behind the personal training. They understand. Person or 50% capacity for gyms. I'm not sure to verify that. So are people allowed 10 people? So are gyms allowing 10 people, but only 4 people per session? Can you run 2 sessions, 1 trainer, 1 client in the same room for a total of 4 people?
So yeah, if you have a space in a closed gym where you can have 4 walls and a door separating multiple personal training sessions, you can do multiple personal training sessions if there's that 4 walls and a door division. If there isn't, your max you can do is just the group of 4, including the trainer. So assuming there's 4 walls and a door separating spaces, that means that there's probably shared space being used where there's that entrance and exit going on. And that's where an office person or someone else with a retail is most likely, that's where the up to 10 could come into place, assuming now you're in a facility that has closed off spaces within it.
Great. There was a question, and I'll just kind of paraphrase it, from a business that said because of the mandatory closures, obviously there are financial pressures, and yet they are still required to pay their lease. Are there plans for the county to issue a law or provision that protects small businesses? If the county isn't allowing businesses to operate, can the landlord continue to hold them to the lease? Is there advice on that?
I'll defer to Zach or Lane for this one.
Yeah, there are the cities throughout the county have offered assistance grants, and that may come again in the future. But regarding specifically, protections, legal protections for commercial tenants, we'll need to follow up with you on that. That's not an area that we've really built out our expertise in. And we can't offer, specific legal advice on that issue. But if we're aware of any resources or any, general information, we'll be sure that we share that.
Okay. We may have children doing personal training, or may parents be in the same room as well? Do they count as part of the 4 total? How does family math work?
Yeah. So for all of the folks that have kind of chimed in prior to the session too, part of the parents have been waiting, not necessarily, they're not a part of the 4, and they should not be in the same space as the 4, if that makes sense. So parents have been waiting outside, or waiting outside the building, or coming back and picking their kids up later. But if they're in the building and you're trying to hit that max or use that 10, they would count. But they need to be socially distanced and not necessarily in the same space as where the training is going on, because that needs to be limited to just 4.
Unless, all of it was just a family, right?
Yeah. The
If
caveat is single family.
Yeah, the only people you had was a family of 6, that would be fine, as long as there's no other people.
But just to watch and hang out and be there as like the training sessions going on, no. But if they're part of the training sessions, a single household can have more than 4 people trained at a time, as long as they've been in this household the whole time under the stay-at-home and safer-at-home order.
Great. Can we expect that when the state changes the gym guidelines that Boulder County will align with the state, or is it a possibility that Boulder County will have additional restrictions?
Yeah, I think it's safe to expect that. It certainly is a possibility, but that's the trend that we've gone on so far is aligning with the state.
The reference to licensed camp is a bit of a question. There is a dance studio that offers summer camps. Would they qualify?
Without additional information, I wouldn't know. We'd say that might be one of the things to check with your personal attorney, since we can't give advice on that, and I don't have enough details to necessarily answer that. If they've been operating camps in the past under their license, then that seems fine in general. But if not, that might be something where you want to check in further with a personal attorney.
This is Kara Kaiser. I'm with Sarah Scully's team.
Good.
And I think the important thing with licensed childcare centers, they need to, or childcare camps, or just camps in general, they need to be licensed through the Department of Human Services. And so they need to contact the Department of Human Services to determine if they need a license or if they can be exempt from a license. And I can't answer that because that's through the Department of Human Services, but that's who they need to go to.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks. Again, checking on the math. When you say 2 trainers and 2 clients, is that with 6 feet amongst all as much as possible?
6 feet needs to be maintained during personal training sessions. And masks must be worn the whole time by trainers and attendees. So it will limit for most personal trainers what type of training can happen or for the sessions, due to considering, how safe and how easy it's going to be for people to be able to breathe. And whether you're indoors and outdoors, those things need to be factored into it, as it will limit, and there's no shared equipment. So you can't you're not going to be touching hands or sharing equipment in any way. If there's equipment needed, the clients need to bring it themselves and leave it themselves. And then anything that the trainer is using would need to be disinfected and cleaned in between sessions.
Right. There is a note about kind of a perceived discrepancy between protocols for gyms and restaurants. So the understanding is that restaurants are opening up and can have up to 50 people. Gyms are still not. Any additional feedback on that piece?
I will just reiterate, but I'll share. So it's the state that's really, they're in charge of these guidelines. It's not the county. And if you go to the state website where it has the Safer at Home orders where you can find them, I don't know if you want to pull one up. At the bottom of every page, there is a feedback form that you can fill out. So if there is something you feel strongly about providing to the state to consider, yeah, I'll show you, Jesse, if you want to click on it.
Yeah.
We can get to it and show you where. But I think all of the feedback that you all have and that you have been sharing with us somewhat, have been trying to share too. Why it's great you're sharing it with us or with me. We're not necessarily decision makers in this process right now, so to pass it on to the state.
Can you see that, Cami?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let me.
But I'll guide you to it in just a second.
Okay. Oh no. There we go. So this is the Safer at Home.
Yeah. So scroll all the way down to the bottom, Jesse. It doesn't matter which page you're on the state's website. Here in the top of this gray section, the start gray section, you just first contact under, or first link under contact. If you click on that form, it's going to take you to a feedback form, which is where you can fill out and provide a lot of your comments or feedbacks or discrepancies. And, and anytime we're noticing discrepancies in the order, we're also raising it up if we see language discrepancies too. So, and some of you have pointed those out for us faster than we have found it. So it is helpful, but you're also always welcome to come here and give your feedback and suggestions to the state directly.
So again, that's what I did was.
Yeah, maybe show them
Yeah.
the main
This is
page.
the COVID-19.colorado.gov page, and you can even see it, I think, probably even down here.
Yeah.
Here's that COVID-19 related issues and concerns.
I think it's their standard footer on any given page. It's there.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Circling back, understanding the gyms can do personal training with 4 people. Can dance, yoga, and Pilates studios open with 4 people in a class with social distancing?
And I think it's a languaging thing, just to clarify. Gyms can't do, personal trainers can do personal training. Gyms are closed. Pilates studio, all facilities are closed. So I think marketed as such is that the gym isn't open to do personal training, just the personal trainers are available to do personal training, which can happen indoors or outdoors. But I think to help with the public confusion and even business confusion, we really want to make sure we're talking about all gyms of any type are closed. They aren't open to do personal training.
And,
they've just been given the exemption to basically use a closed space per the governor.
As a follow-up to that, can there be outdoor classes with fewer than 10 people as long as social distancing is adhered to?
Very good questions. If you're going to be operating the business under kind of the personal trainer caveat, it's still 4 people.
Okay.
Which is, I know, frustrating. Like we said, we understand, but
Great.
that's the language as it is right now.
Okay, can a trainer come within 6 feet of a trainee to give assistance, guidance, or correction, assuming there is a mask and glove being worn?
You fall under personal services, and just like hairstylists and folks like that, they are able to get closer to provide services. I think part of that is consider what sort of PPE protection you might want to have or needed to be able to get closer. It might, based on your comfort level as a trainer, that might be one of your limiting factors of what kind of training do you want to do to correct if it feels like you have to do a lot of physical touch that may or may not be comfortable for you or your clients. But you just need to make sure that you have the right gear on and that you're cleaning properly. Frequent hand washing is going on in between sessions, especially if there was physical touch. But that might be something for the clients and the trainers to sort of discuss prior to a session as well.
And I would add that the language says, ensure a minimum of 6 feet. except, when not directly performing a service. Just anecdotal example, I saw someone who I presume was a trainer out, jogging next to, I presume, their client. That is not going to be okay under the order. You want to maintain that 6 feet under that scenario. However, if you're assisting someone who's weightlifting and you need to be there to spot them, that's the time when you can be there. But you can't be just hanging out next to them during that time period. You want to limit the amount of time you're in close contact and limit that exposure.
Great. Clarification, are parks closed to use or rent for outdoor yoga classes? And if so, is there an ETA when they may reopen?
Good question. I know the local municipalities are working right now to kind of get their guidelines in place for how they're going to reopen their facilities, because it would be working with the municipality that is in charge of those facilities. So as far as renting, that would be working with that group. And I don't know that they're necessarily have that pulled together yet, but they're working on that based on some guidelines that have come out previously. But it wouldn't necessarily change the max numbers that are allowed under the current order language right now.
Yeah, which would be for outdoor yoga classes as well at this time.
Okay, checking on this math again. Can you run 2 sessions with 1 trainer and 1 client in the same room for a total of 4 people?
Not sure I followed math, but I was seeing head nods, so okay.
It's that 4 number, 2 trainers, 2 clients works the same, yes.
You can slice and dice the 4 however it makes sense and you want. It just needs to be no more than 4 people, including the clients and or trainers. It doesn't matter how you mix them.
Great. What about group fitness classes outside? Can we have more than 4 people? Are there any other requirements?
No. It's 4 or that's it. It's a personal trainer, 4 or less, or 4 max.
Okay. We are at about time. Is there any additional questions? It does not look like we have outstanding questions at this point, but I want to do a quick check-in before we wrap up.
Maybe we'll just reiterate the invite to also give your feedback on what information would be helpful for you moving forward next week as well, as we prepare for the session next week.
Thank you. So as we close, I again want to thank our Chamber and Economic Development partners for their service to our community. I want to thank all of you for participating, asking your questions, helping our public health leaders understand the questions that you have as you're grappling with your businesses right now. Like we mentioned, we will be sending out the link to this so you can refer to it going forward, and as well as the resources discussed today. And most importantly, I want to thank our leaders from the Boulder County Public Health Department. They're putting in long hours. They've been really critical thought partners to our businesses to support our health and also to support our economy. And we so value and appreciate that. For next week's session, we do hold them every Tuesday at 4 p.m. and you can use the same Zoom login or register through the Boulder Chamber website. And with that, we hope to see you next week. If you have additional questions, have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, everybody.